Recording.
23. You're the host.
See that? I'll put that video.
23. What?
Touch your hand. Alrighty. 3,
2. Action. We had everything going against us.
Yeah, we were young. We were broke. We didn't know anything about business. We literally started from nothing.
We were never supposed to make it.
What's up, guys? Welcome back.
Hey, what's up, guys?
This is episode number
23.
23? Yes, 23 of Win Anyway. So if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, any of the other platforms that we're on, we just want to say welcome and thank you guys so much for all of the love and the support. We're actually doing the Q&A session that we talked about in episode number 21, I think, right? Or 2020? No, episode 20. Yeah, the Q&A session, the contest that we had. Thank you guys for those of you guys who commented. We're actually having it this week. So by the time you watch this episode, that will have been, a blast and good to go and a success, hopefully. But we'll be doing a lot more of that stuff, of course, because we appreciate you guys. We love you guys, want to help you guys. But anyway, today we have a cool topic because we get asked this a lot. And our topic today is...
It is how to go full-time in the business and fire your boss.
Yeah, we get this a lot, or we don't get it. So half the time, we get it where they're like, hey, yay, guess what? I'm full-time.
Yeah, and I'm like, wait, what?
Wait, let's backtrack a little.
Why are you full-time?
But for a lot of times, we get asked a lot, like, I really want to come full-time, really passionate. This is what I want to do. I'm sick of my 9 to 5. I want to be full-time in business. How do I do it?
Yeah.
And so that's what we're going to be sharing with you today is the steps to take and what you need and what, kind of position you need to be in business to go full time, especially right now, since, if you're watching this video currently, in the current present time right now, a lot of you guys aren't having to go to work. So now is the perfect time to make a move towards being full time, right?
Yep. We try to, all these topics are timeless, but if you're watching this right now on freaking April 30th of 2020, we're in a quarantine that just got extended more than likely till June 19th instead of May 15th. And so, although this is a timeless episode, also right now it's very current.
Yeah.
So we've got people on our team that are in business with us that are part-time. They've had jobs for a long, and not jobs. They have careers. They have careers that pay them almost 6 figures, if not more. And it's such a cool experience right now for them because of the fact that they're able to now be full-time in WFG, full-time as an entrepreneur by default, just because they can't go to work or they're forced to work from home. And because they're forced to work from home, they they're pretty much full-time in the business. So we've got a girl on the team right now. I don't know if I call her a girl. Yeah, she's young. I call her a girl. A lady, a woman. A lady. Her name is Brittany, and she's in business with her significant other, Holly. And they're freaking crushing it. And Brittany's a full-time occupational therapist, working with kids in schools. But given the whole situation, she's full-time in the business now. And Brittany's always made money, and she's also been on contract. And when you're in her position, you have a contract with the school district where you cannot quit until your contract is over. But now, given the whole COVID-19 thing, she's full time, and ever since she's been able to go full time about 2 weeks ago, she's just freaking destroying the business.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk about this a lot, but I think for this episode's perspective, we'll talk about it from. Let's say you are currently working, right? And you want to go full-time sometime in the near future and the steps that you should take, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So let's say, so in that perspective, what would you say the first thing, if you're like, all right, I really, really, really want to go full-time as soon as possible, what's the first thing you should do?
Well, here's the deal. If you can't win part-time at all, Like, you've got to be able to make something happen part-time in order for you to want to go full-time. And if you can't do that, like, just because you have more time doesn't mean you're going to do better.
Right.
And so it's important to understand that. Not to discourage you from going full-time, but my point is, Brittany's an example of someone who was still getting results part-time.
Yeah.
She just didn't have enough time to really dive fully in, master her craft, be able to get on 10, 15, 20 appointments a week, field training people. Like, she didn't have that capability, but she was getting results part-time. So just know up front, you being part-time, we did a whole episode on how to win part-time.
Yes.
You being part-time is not an excuse for you not winning. But if you could win part-time and if you're getting some results, imagine what you could do full-time. So the first step is that you got to be getting results on a part-time basis first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Because if you can't be disciplined with the extra 3 or 4 hours that you have in a day after your workday,
Right.
after your career or your job or whatever you got going on, your 9 to 5, if you cannot be disciplined within those 3-4 hours after that, how are you going to operate when you have 24 hours at your disposal that you can control 100%?
It becomes a recipe for an anxiety attack because, like, you're literally sitting around you just waste so much more time. So you got to be capping out on the time that you have before you go full time. So that's number one. And then I would tell you the next thing, the big thing would be, you got to have some sort of money in the bank.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are we talking about? Like a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months? What do you think?
I'd say
as
try
far
at
as
least
those?
I don't know. By the way, there is no right or wrong answer on
Right.
this. We're giving you our opinion.
Yes.
If your coach is just like, screw that, just quit, go full time, well, fine, do it. But I think if you've got at least 3 months of your bills in the bank, so let's say it costs you, I'm not saying 3 months of your income, okay? There's a difference.
Right.
3 months of your bills, what does it cost you to survive?
So your rent, food.
Yeah, exactly. If you make $4,000 a month, but your bills are $2,000, then you don't need $12,000 in the bank. You need $6,000 in order to I've got 30 days to get something going, 60 days to start making some money, and then I got another 90 days as, another 30 days after that as a cushion.
Yeah, and the reason, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason why we say 90 days is just because, throughout our career in business, we notice that whenever we implement something new or we're, adding an upgrade to, our business, that we usually see the results of the effort we were putting in, 90 days out from when we start something.
Yeah, 100%.
And so for a lot of people who go full time, I think they're like, yes, this is my first week full time. And they're working, or maybe they're not working, but let's say you're working and you don't see results immediately within 30 days, people start getting discouraged, so they start doing less because they feel like it's not working. So we tell people up front, it's going to take 90 days for you to get in a good rhythm as long as you're working.
Yes, and if your prerequisites are in order, which is that you're already winning part-time, then you don't have to do that.
Exactly.
Because you already have stuff going on. Now you could just maximize your time.
You're amping it up.
Yeah, but I always say, if you're starting from nothing, 100%, 90 days. Last week's distractions become this week's nightmares. And so literally, if you were dicking around for the last 60 days, you can't expect to go full time and crush it the next week.
Right.
Because it doesn't work like that. There's a pipeline and a price that has to be paid up front. Another key point is I think you have to really know why you want to be full time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Why? What's the goal? Why full time? Why not part time?
Yeah. And, when we're talking about your why and making sure you have money to pay the bills and stuff like that, obviously that's going to be dependent on your specific situation. If you're 20 years old and you still live with your parents, obviously this isn't everyone, and you don't have a lot of bills, you can kind of stretch it out longer, right? But if you're married and you have kids and they depend on you to feed them, then, you got to take the responsibility of being able to do that stuff, right?
I remember talking to someone on the team. He was 18 years old. He was starting in business, and he said, my whole family wants me to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe there's anything wrong with going to college.
No, of course not.
But what I told him was, I said, do you want to go to college? Do you have a career that on the other side of college is now attainable? If that's not your ideal goal, if you don't want to be a doctor or a nurse or a teacher or an engineer or something like that, then what's the purpose of you going to college? And he's like, why? I don't want to do any of those things. He's like, I want to work in finance full time. I said, well, you don't have to go to college to do that. Mm-hmm. I said, you're 18 years old. You go full time in business today. It takes you 4 years, let's say, to learn how to make 50 grand a year. Is that a loss? No, that's not a loss. I'll tell you why it's not a loss. If you went to college and you go work for the next 4 years on your degree, you're not going to be making money anyways. You're going to get out all the way through that, all that time, effort, and energy. You're going to owe money, more than likely. Then you're going to come out and get a job that pays you 50 grand a year. So I said, from now till 22 years old, you got all that time to figure out how to make 50 to 60 grand a year. And you wouldn't even be behind of any of your friends. You would have just probably saved $50,000 to $100,000 in tuition bills. But the point was, is if you go full time, you could make it happen. But why? Like, why does someone go full time? You have to really know why. Otherwise, you're not going to make it.
Yeah, and you have to be, like he said, you have to be crystal clear. So, for example, this is a more of a common why. I want to spend more time with my kids. I want to be there for everything. Mm-hmm. I don't want to miss like all the things. Like my parents were always working, so they missed everything, right? Or my parents were always able to be there, and I want to do the same thing. But you have to be very clear on it, because you going full time, it's going to require some sacrifices up front. So for you to say, oh, hey, I want to go full time because I want to be there for my kids, for every little thing like that they have going on. But then you're never working in the business because you were there for every little thing that they got going on.
Right.
You're going to end up back or behind, schedule, because you are using your whys as a distraction. So you have to get crystal clear on like, hey, I want to be able to be there for all your, whatever the most important things are to you, right? I want to be able to be there for you. And, in a financial sense, in an emotional sense, in a physical sense. And these are the things that I'm going to have to do for the next, 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Right. I hate seeing people struggle in business.
Yeah.
And they struggle because of what Ronnie just said, which is you start full time, and it's more time does not mean more money. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've got a couple on our team, Paul and Lisa. They're both part-time, and they'll make $100,000 this year, part-time. And they're not putting in 30, 40, 50 hours a week. But they're good. They're effective, but they're both RNs. One works in the ICU, one works at a cancer research hospital. They love their careers. Mm-hmm. So you got to know, why am I doing it? Now, if you're like, you know what, I freaking hate my job.
Yeah.
Like if you're just sticking around at your job for that comfy paycheck you get every 2 weeks, there are a million other ways for you to make money that don't require you to crush your soul and completely just lose yourself at work.
Right.
There are a million ways to make $100,000 a year. There are a million ways to make $1 million a year. So if you're in that position where you're just sticking around for that guaranteed lump sum you get every 14 days, then, dude, get the heck out. If you don't love your job, what are you doing it for? Go full time. Make a plan to go full time. Let me tell you why I went full time. I went full time because I freaking love the business. Mm-hmm. I just love it. It's a game. It's a competition to me. It's a sport. I played sports my whole life. This is a sport. There's a scoreboard. This, in a lot of ways, is more competitive than any sports I ever played. It's fun. It's challenging. I love the uncertainty. Man, I wonder if we're getting paid how much tomorrow. Man, I wonder if it's going to close. I love everything about it. I freaking love it. So because I love it, I didn't want to do it sometimes. I didn't want to do it part of the time. I want to be able to do it all of the time. Mm-hmm. Ronnie, why'd you go full time?
I went full time because the thought of having to, long story short, was my career that I was so in love with and so excited to do, it just wasn't what it was cracked up to be. And I saw how excited you were about working with people and helping them and training them and coaching them. And you were just so passionate about it that when you were like, hey, let's do this together, I was like, all right. I was just excited about it. I wanted that change. I needed something that I could be as passionate about as you were about it.
Right.
And so I kind of borrowed your, your enthusiasm for going full time. And so I was like, all right, I'm all in. I want to do this too. And then eventually very quickly I fell in love with everything about the business. But initially it was just like the bigger goal of being able to own our lives and to be able to dictate how we spent every single day and how we were going to live and where we were going to live, and just everything about having that control really just made me fall in love with it. And that's why I wanted to work full time in the business.
Right. For the same reason, which is that you loved it.
Yeah.
So let's pretend you're sitting on the other side of this right now and you go, dude, I love the business.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do it full time. I want to do it. All right. Number one, we talked about it. You need to make sure you're getting results part-time.
Yeah.
Now, if you're getting results part-time, imagine what you could do full-time.
And let me tell you, when he was working in the business part-time and he was working a job, he was always thinking about the business while he was at work. He was always thinking about what he had going on. He was there physically, but mentally, he was with the business.
100%.
And that's where all of his mental focus and energy was going all the time. And so if you don't think about it while you're at your work, or you're not thinking it, you find yourself forgetting about it, then, I don't know if necessarily you want to be in the business full time as much as you're saying you do.
Right. But if you're getting results part-time, imagine what you could do full-time.
Yeah.
If you're making $2-3 grand a month part-time, what could you do full-time? So that's number one. Number two, you need to know why. Hey, I want to go full-time because I never want to have to clock in at a freaking job again. I want to go full-time because I could double, triple, quadruple my income if I was. I want to go full-time because it's fun, man. I freaking love it. Okay, that's number two. Number three, you need to put some money in savings. So we said 90 days worth of your bills, 3 months of your bills. What's it cost you to live? Okay, that way you have a couple months in savings. Or, there are other ways to do it. I've seen people a million times that they go, you know what? I'm freaking going full time. And they leave their job and they cash out their 401k and then they use that as their safety net. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and we're not saying to do that either.
But there's nothing wrong with that. People do it all the time. They use it to buy a house, whatever. Like, you have a safety net. The point is you put the money in there. You could use it for whatever you want. If you're 30 and you're like, dude, I'm screw 59 and a half. I'm going to go full-time into business and retire. My point is that you got to have something. If you don't have any money somewhere, then you better freaking make it, because otherwise you become your trainer's worst nightmare, which is that your SMD, your trainer, is sitting in bed at night thinking about how you're drowning, and it's their responsibility now to help you win. So have some sort of money somewhere, whether it's money you put in the bank forever ago or money from your old job's retirement account or something. You got to have something, some way to pay the bills if you, for some reason, don't get paid next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise, you become our problem.
I would also say that if you're going to go full time, you should probably be independent, be able to close.
Yes, that's the next point.
Yeah.
Certified.
Yeah, so number 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, number 4 is you have to be able to make money. So if you're not licensed, right? If you're not licensed, no.
Please don't.
Do not. You have to have a license. You have to be appointed. You, have to be able to close. Like, you have to be a trainer, or, just signed off to be able to run your own appointments. So that way you're not dependent on somebody else's calendar or schedule to be able to make money. You can go out there and do it on your own, and you have confidence that you can sit across from somebody and be able to help them. Yep. Right? So I would definitely say that that's next on the list as far as things that you should be checking off.
Yeah, that's a big one. It's a very, very big one. Now, we have people full-time that are not certified.
Right.
And they can't go write stuff on their own, which is fine. But if you want to do it right, if you're putting a plan together, then you should be in a position where you could get results. And the last one is I think you have to have a date. You got to put a date on the calendar.
Yes, a deadline.
You want to be full-time? Nothing without a date is concrete. You got to have I'm going to get it done by May 31st.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you work towards that as if it's happening.
With enthusiasm.
Yes.
Be excited about it. You can't make it full-time if you're not freaking excited. That's my point is, like, I went full-time because I loved it. If you're miserable in the business, you're not going to do well full time. You have to love it. You have to be excited about it. Things that you're not excited about, they just don't work the same.
And I would say you have to be excited about every part of the business.
Yeah.
You can't just be excited about the closing part.
Or
you
the
have
money.
to be excited about the money. Yes, exactly. You have to be excited about the environment, about trainings, about BPM, about, all the stuff that people would tell you that you're crazy for loving. The whoosh. You have to be excited about all of the business because in its entirety, it's built to work if you run the system. So if you're not in love with the system and being coachable and running through it, then you're going to hit a wall at some point.
Yeah, you're going full time with the intent of making it a career.
Yes.
That's the point. Like my parents, I grew up in a very conservative family. And so my dad, my dad's been a pastor my whole life. And so he always said, if you're not dating with the intention or the possibility of marrying, then why are you dating? And so in the business, it's if you're not planning a career here, then you probably shouldn't be full time.
Yeah.
Because you're going full time, like with what Ronnie said, which is you have to love everything, or you have to at least be working towards loving everything. Because if you're just fired up about the money is the last thing you ever get. The money is a result of all the other stuff. And so you're going full time with the intention of, I'm going to have a career here. I'm going to make this what I'm going to do. This isn't just like, I'm not going to try it out for 3 months until I find another job. I mean, you could do that too, and maybe you'll end up full time. But I think the right mentality that will serve you the most is I'm going full time because this is the starting point of a lifelong career where I could become wealthy and financially independent, and build me a big freaking organization and a big time company and make all my freaking dreams come true. That's the point of you being full time in the business.
Yes. And I would say if I could add one last thing is that you should definitely talk to your coach. Mm-hmm. Because, the advice we're giving you, it's obviously good advice, but it's more general. But your coach knows you. Your coach has been working with you. Your coach knows your good habits, your bad habits, your strengths, your weaknesses, your financial situation, because obviously, you sat down and took care of your own finances. They should know all of that stuff. So for you to go to them and say, hey, I've been thinking about, going full-time sometime in the near future. Like, what do you think of that? And ask them really honest questions. Hey, like, do I have the habits that I need to have in order to succeed full-time? Ask them really honest questions like, when do you see me being able to go full-time? What do I need to change in order to be able to go full-time? All of that stuff. Have them look over your finances. Ask them. That's what they're there for, to help you, to coach you, to make sure that you're not making the same mistakes that maybe they did, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
and
agree.
to really set you up to have success. So ask them, utilize them, say, hey, let me talk to you for 5-10 minutes. Let me run something by you and see what they say and ask for honest feedback. And if you're willing to receive it and be, a blank slate and take on that stuff and work on the things they tell you to work on, then you'll do amazing.
Yep. And then when you go full time, here's the last thing, because you get the advice, which is definitely a must. Okay. But when you go full time, you better freaking work.
Yes.
Because I can't tell you how many times I've seen people go full time and then they don't freaking do anything.
You never see them at the office.
They don't do anything. Like ever. They don't work. They literally sit around for 60 to 90 days and then go back to their job.
Because they have to.
And I'm like, what was it? Like a unpaid vacation?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to work. You got to go full time and you got to go balls to the wall and leave nothing to chance. And you got to actually work. I mean, you got to make this work. You're an entrepreneur, so you don't get paid for days off. You don't get paid. All the stuff that you do as an employee does not work as an entrepreneur.
No.
When you go full time, it's freaking sink or swim. It's kill or be killed. And the only option I've got is to make this work.
Yeah. And it's not going to work if you don't work.
No, you really find out who you are as a person the day you go full time. But I'll tell you, it is the best, most freaking fun experience ever. To wake up whenever the hell you want. To go to sleep whenever the hell you want. To work and run appointments whenever the hell you want. to not have to take lunch breaks, to leave whenever you want, go eat whenever you want, wherever you want. And then financially, once you pay your dues, you can afford to do whatever you want.
Literally whatever you want.
On your schedule. I have not been employed since May of 2011.
Yeah.
So it's been next month will be 9 years since I've had a job. And haven't had a punch a time card, asked for a day off, nothing. In 9 years, doing whatever the effing hell I want for 9 years. And there are people in the company who've been doing that 30 years. And it's freaking fun. And mind you, that's not done at a sacrifice. That's done making what I used to make a year per month. But you have to actually work. It does not work if you don't work.
Yes, exactly.
And it ain't going to happen overnight either.
Nope.
But if you get 1% better for 100 days in a row, you've got 100% better. Whoosh. Hey, guys, we appreciate, as Ronnie said, you watching and all that stuff.
Commenting and sharing and everything.
And making just like building a community. It's pretty cool. It's cool to read all your reviews. It's cool to, see all that stuff. And it's cool to have fun and win. So anyhow, all right.
All right.
Any last words?
No, that's it.
Go fire your freaking boss. We're out.
Love you guys.